This tutorial video is going to go through 6 different examples on solving equations. So the first one, I'm just going to go through each one and hopefully it's just a review for you and you should have already seen this before. So remember that we want to get our variables on one side and our constants, or just our numbers, on another. So we have the coefficient in front of the variable, and then we have our constant here. It doesn't matter which side you get everything on, it's really a personal preference. Some people always like to put the variables on the left, some people always like to keep the variables positive so they move them one way or the other. It's really up to you. So I'm going to go ahead and solve this one. I'm going to subtract 8p from both sides because on the right hand side I want to move this 8p over to the left hand side. So I have to undo it or do the inverse operation, which is subtraction, since this is a positive 8p. I'm going to subtract 8p from both sides. 8p minus 8p cancels itself out. 5p minus 8p is going to be negative 3p. And then I'm going to rewrite minus 14 equals, and we don't have this anymore, so it's just positive 4. Then I'm going to move my constant over to the other side because if I'm bringing my p's to the left, I'm going to bring my constants to the right. So I'm going to add 14 to both sides. So I have negative 3p equals 18. And then I have to get this p by itself or isolate the variable. And the negative 3 that's right next to it is being multiplied by it. So its inverse operation is division, or how to undo multiplication, I would use division. So I'm going to divide both sides by negative 3. That gets rid of my p. 18 divided by negative 3 is negative 6. Remember that we're always following order of operations, so I'm going to multiply and distribute here. So I've got 5n plus 34 equals, when I distribute, negative 2 times 1 is negative 2. Negative 2 times negative 7n is positive 14n. And then again, I'm going to bring my variables to one side and my constants, to another. Either way, either side is fine. So I'm going to subtract 14n from both sides. When I do that, these 14, the right hand side cancels itself out. 5 minus 14 is going to be negative 9n. And then bring down my 34 and bring down my negative 2. In order to move this 34 to the opposite side, I'm going to do the inverse operation, which is subtraction. So I'm going to subtract 34 from both sides. Negative 9n equals negative 36. Divide both sides by negative 9. And I end up with n equals positive 4. Here I'm distributing, and I'm distributing negative, and really there's an invisible 1 right there. So I've got 14 equals negative 1 times p, so negative p. Negative 1 times negative 8 is going to be plus 8. And now in this case I know I've been moving the variable to the left and the constant to the right, but here there's no other variable, there's only a variable on one side. So if I moved this over, I'd have to move the 14 over, which would be 2 steps, when I could just subtract 8 from both sides, and then I have the constants on one and the variables on the other. So 8 minus 14, or excuse me, 14 minus 8 is 6, equals negative p. Now remember there was that invisible 1 in front of here, so in order to get p just by itself, I have to divide by negative 1. And when I do that, I get negative 6 equals p. Here I'm going to, again, I'm in the same situation, so I'm just going to move my negative, or subtract 4m from one side to the other. Those cancel, I get negative 4 equals, and these cancel. So I get negative 4 equals 0. And that is not a true statement. So my answer is no solution. Okay. So you don't have to write all this. This is all you need, or you could even use this symbol for no solution. But since negative 4 equals 0 is not a true statement, there is no value of x that will work in this equation. So that's why we say there's no solution. There's no way for me to, it's actually not x even, it's m, but there's no way for me to pick a value of m that would make a true statement here. So that is why there is no solution. Alright, and then for this one, I've got a fraction. So let's go ahead and add 10 to both sides and get my constants together. And I've got 4 equals n over 2. Now this is being divided by 2, so in order to undo division, I can multiply both sides by 2. And if I multiply this side by 2, it will cancel it out. But if I multiply the left side by 2, I also have to multiply the right side by 2. So I end up with 8 equals n. Last example, I'm going to distribute my negative 4. So 24a minus 22 was negative 4 plus 24a. And then I'm going to get my constants on one side, my variables on the other. So I'm going to go ahead and add 22. 24a equals, when I add negative 4 and 22, I get 18 plus 24a. And subtract to move it over to the other side. And you'll see I've ended up with a similar solution where I get 0 equals 18. And since this is not a true statement, there is no solution, or the symbol for no solution to this example.